I was talking to my son today. I was talking about um, the Stranger Things finale, which he hated because he really wanted people to die.
Mm.
But um, I told him but he's like, there's so many people that don't like it, and I was like, dude, you've got to remember that there's a vocal majority on the
Right,
internet of people that hate things, and when they really hate something, especially something that's that big,
right,
they just take over and they flood. And I said, that there's a little bit of the opposite of that too. Like if you go to the season finale of Stranger Things on IMDb and you look at the review spread,
right.
there's like a shit ton of ones, but there's also way too many tens. And I think with something that big, you have to take the one and the 10 out to
Sure.
really kind of evaluate what the real ratings are because people will just immediately go to the extreme
Right.
to fight their position on something like I love it or hate it. And I think it's somewhere in between. Like if I was going to give the finale, I don't know about you, Andrew,
I
but if
was
I
going
was
to
at
ask, what do you guys give it for the
I'd probably give
finale?
the finale like a seven. I think it could have been better. I think their kind of Lord of the Rings ending where it went a little too long at the end was good, but I don't know, maybe it didn't slow it down. I don't know. It could have been better, but it wasn't bad, and I think it was better than the episode that came before it. That's for sure. Maybe I'd even give it an eight. I don't know.
Mm.
Exactly. I give it an 8. And I think that the weakest part was really um the finishing, if you will, of like the antagonist. That was as far
Yeah,
as like that was the weakest part. But I was okay with the length at the end. I think it was just very it was a love letter
hmm
to the
yeah,
characters and to the fans, I think.
yeah. I think I talked myself out of it right after I said it. I saw a thing that said that the final battle, like the time on screen of the final battle, was
10
actually
minutes.
was less than Will's coming out scene.
See, like that to me says it all. Like that's why episode 7 was so unbalanced. It was just too fucking easy, man. Like it was just such it
Yeah,
was a letdown. It
yeah.
as a matter of fact, the most perilous fight was the demos in episode 4. Yeah,
In the
because
hospital.
that was scary too. But no, when had Will not had the powers, it was
Yeah,
a
I
wrap
understand
for
what. Yeah,
everybody. So I felt like that was like the scariest shit. Yeah, I think your big bad battle, you know, I'm gonna go
should
there.
have
So
been bigger and badder.
the
100%.
battle of
I don't
heaven and
disagree.
earth, you know what I'm talking about? The battle of
Yeah,
heaven and earth, that's a great, it's almost like ridiculous. Like now you guys are getting ridiculous, but like that was like a fucking battle, you know, so Attack on Titan. But like,
yeah,
so no, it was underwhelming, big time. Everyone was like, what the fuck?
yeah. It's funny. I think Attack on Titan would be a better comparison. Like, it should have been. It should have been long. It should
Yeah,
have been long and drawn out, and they should have been on the edge of losing, like
yes.
right on the edge of losing. And I don't think they. I never felt like they were.
They never were, ever. Like
Yeah,
if yeah, in my hands, like it should have been like the last two episodes. Like episode 7 should have been battle half, and then the episode 8, maybe half of it battle conclusion, and then the end. Like it's really gotta feel earned. It didn't feel
yeah,
earned.
yeah. They should have Infinity boarded. Like they should have at the end
Yes.
of there should have been a point where it stops and you think they are cannot win. And I just that moment was never there. So,
Oh well.
but still for me, I still enjoyed the entire show. I think the last season had its ups and downs, but I think it finished as well as it, you know, as it could be and what it was. Like I said, I always knew that nobody was going to kick it. Like I'd called that a long time ago. Um, and and so I wasn't disappointed by that. I know some people were, but yeah, it was not too bad. But at least we didn't get a ninth episode.
Thank God. No conformity gate for us. I didn't believe that shit for 1 second.
Not for a second. Part of me was like, it would have been brilliant though. Like it would have had to be a great episode, but it would have been crazy for them to be like, JK, we got you. Like, wait a week after dropping the whole thing and then be like,
Nah.
here's this whole thing that, like, but it would
With
have
the
seemed
teaser to drop a ninth episode?
so. If you didn't read it online, there was a whole
I saw
um,
something.
this whole conspiracy theory that people were diving into the episode and seeing all these things in the episode, the finale episode, that made them think that this was all a creation of our big bad. So what we were seeing at the end wasn't actually happening, but it was them sort of trapped in something that they couldn't get out of. And to be fair, like the people, like the crazy people that did their research, I mean, they pointed out some really cool stuff. Like they really, really did. Like there's some really amazing stuff that they're pointing out that, if the creators had done it on purpose, would have been genius. And so the idea that they came up with was there must be a ninth episode because this is all set up. It's all set up to be this wild other thing, and then it blew up so big that people were like, what was the stat? Was it $6 million was bet like across the world
Yeah.
on a ninth episode coming out that was never announced? Like there was no indication. There's no real indication that a ninth episode was coming out. It was just people having their crazy thoughts. And then it didn't happen. And then people were up. Now they're trying to come up with like a different date that it's going to come. This is like, it's become like the end of the world, right? Like people predict the end of the world and they're like, well, I
Doomsday
was just kidding. Yeah,
prepper.
doomsday cults. They're like, well, I miscalculated, you know? And so it's not happening, but it's like there was the whole big deal about, um, them uh having a bunch of footage that they left on the floor because people were like, this can't possibly be the last season they want to
That
have.
I
And
believe.
they are adamant, and the multiple people are adamant that that is not the case. The
Oh,
Duffers have said it wasn't. Like they said that they left nothing on the cutting room floor. And one of the directors was like, yeah, we didn't leave anything out. And I feel
okay.
like watching the show from the beginning till the end, I know people wanted more, but I don't think it was ever there. Like looking at the storytelling and the way that it was, I don't see anything that they were creating that's missing. I know what people want. And like I said, once you get a big enough fan base, shit gets out of control because people start talking about what they want. And then when fan theories don't take off, especially big ones, when they don't actually get, wrapped up
Taken
into the
out.
story, people get mad. And I'm like, but dude, you didn't write it. Like I told my son because he was mad about the ending. I was like, then go write a better one. I was like, if you don't like it, if you think they're wrong, you go write a better one. He's like, well, I can't write the ending of that show. I was like, go write your own show. Go write your own thing, and you come up with a better ending. And when that thing gets as big as Stranger Things does, you tell me that you did it. Like, I don't have a problem with that, but you can't just crap on it because you think you know what you're talking about. Like, fan theories are great sometimes, but that's not like the original story. It gets the bigger you get, the more complicated your shit gets. I took a little writing class one time, and it was about self-publishing. I was talking to Jen a little bit about it in one of our chats, and there was a whole thing about self-publishing and how if you do serialized self-publishing, so if you basically publish a chapter at a time, there's entire sites where people will write a chapter a week or whatever, but once they have a big enough fan base, they will interact with the fans as they're writing and work the story if they like the things that that come up, they'll work it into the story. And I was like, that's kind of cool, but at the same time, like, are you giving yourself up? It depends. I guess it depends on what story you're writing, right? Like if you're writing something really hardcore that is like your baby, I don't necessarily agree with that. If you're having some fun, I think that's pretty cool. So there's like two sides to that coin, I think.
Yeah, that is definitely something I would do, like if slash once money was not an issue. There's no universe where I would be bored. So, and this is partly why I can't with this kid. Sorry. You were born with a silver fucking spoon in your mouth. Yes, I know you had mental issues, whatever, but sorry, dude. Like, he didn't ask for any of this, but I feel like there are so many lanes that I would take. I'm sure you're the same, Kevin, like 10, 20 lanes that I want to do, but I cannot because there is reality. There is roof over your head. Like
Yeah.
I would clone the fuck out of myself. There's so much I want to do, so much I want to create.
Yeah.
So that sounds amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. The world's probably safer with only one of me in it, though. I'm I can be a little chaotic, so
Eh,
I'm
I
all
think you're
over the
being too,
place.
I think you're being too hard on yourself. The dopest people are usually the humble ones.
Yeah,
Just
that's
saying.
true.
There you
Uh,
go. Own that shit.
so, all right. Well, we might as well jump in since you brought up our crazy friend. Yeah, Lauren, you want to talk about Being Charlie?
Yeah. So I watched this before our last episode of 2025, and I got into a little bit of a Rob Reiner film. I don't want to say fiesta, but like just kind of my own little marathon. So going through and watching some of the classics, my favorite, Stand By Me, watching The Princess Bride, and then, of course, wanting to delve a little bit further behind their relationship and understanding. Obviously, it's become such a huge headlining story the past couple of weeks. And understanding the project that Rob Reiner did with his son called Being Charlie, which came out, I believe, in 2016, 2017. And yeah, 2016. It stars Nick Robinson, who you may know from a few shows that have come out within the past couple of years. Love Simon's the one that I knew him from. Everything, Everything. He's also been in this show that was on Hulu not too long ago called A Teacher. Other than that, I mean, he's pretty much a rising star. And then you have Cary Elwes, who I love from Princess Bride, and of course, my favorite franchise, Saw. So he's bringing back some familiar names, and this is a story about addiction, about a son of a governor. Now, I didn't know this until watching this separate story that they did. And I don't want to say it was like a 60 minutes type of thing, but they did a special on Rob Reiner that you can find on Disney Plus. And he was actually at one point thinking of running for, I think, governor against Arnold Schwarzenegger at one point, I
That
believe.
actually sounds familiar.
Yeah. So he didn't obviously end up doing it, but I'm sure some of that passion for the law and being able to lead from a political standpoint inspired him to create the character that Cary Elwes plays for David, and he is running for governor of California. And then you've got his son Charlie, who has been struggling with addiction for years. And the movie starts with Charlie's birthday, followed by Charlie going on a rampage and breaking stained glass windows, which lands him to rehab where he has to work on himself. He broke into somebody's medicine cabinet, took a combination of pills, gets very sick, and yeah, so he's in rehab. You see what he has to go through in rehab, and then advances to the halfway house. He meets a young girl who he falls in love with, who's also in treatment, which is a big no no for treatment. And while this is all going on, his father is running for governor of California. So it covers what it's like to have a high profile family and then what's going on and brush it under the rug, something that's very serious and private at the same time, which is this drug addiction. Movie wasn't that great, I'll be honest with you. I thought it was very slow, very sad, but also not something that I would recommend. But obviously, given the circumstances of what happened within the past couple of weeks, it was showing up on Tubi as one of the top watches and stuff. So it was recommended. And of course, I did want to see it knowing that they did this together and collaborated on it. Rob directed, and I'm sure I know his son had some sort of contributions, I believe, within the actual writing, or at least
His
the
son's
film.
listed as the writer.
Is he? Okay.
Him and Matt Ellis Sofon, Ellis Sofon, and Rob Reiner's the director.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end, things end up being okay. So it is somewhat of a, happy ending. From the movie standpoint, his friend ends up overdosing, which is unfortunate. And that's a friend of his that was essentially responsible for getting him into drugs. But nonetheless, it's really just focuses on the hardship to healing and becoming sober. And I don't know, I feel like I've seen better pieces that cover addiction much better. However, I think this is just something that him and his son worked on together. I don't remember it ever coming out or even just the marketing for this type of film, honestly, just by going through. And I think, honestly, the most attention that this film got was probably after he died.
Mhm.
When you think of Rob Reiner, you're thinking of like 80s, 90s movies. You're not thinking of this 2017. Andrew, you're about to say something.
I am. So the night it all happened, there was like a lot of speculation like on social media before the news even confirmed anything. So there was two pieces of speculation. One, thankfully, was wrong. The other one was correct. And those speculations were one, it was his son, and two, his son was trans. So I was Googling online to
That's
find out like what's happening. And while I couldn't find anything on the whole trans thing, which is crazy to me why anyone would make that up, the fact that I did see a documentary talking about his son having a drug problem, in my head, that gave credence to the son thing being true. And then, of course, we found out it was. So you're right. I didn't know about the documentary until I found,
well, it's not a
well,
documentary though, right? I mean, this is just a
or a film,
movie.
either
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
But it's like
Yeah,
autobiographical. Yeah.
it seems like it's at least semi autobiographical for sure.
Something that the everyone, oh yeah, I remember that movie.
No,
No
yeah,
clip,
nobody had
no
heard of this
clip.
movie. Um, it is funny, like it always makes me laugh when people make a movie and then they get to cast who plays them, basically.
Mhm.
And Rob Reiner. Now, to be fair, he's very close with Cary Elwes. He always was because of Princess
Awesome.
Bride, and there was some great
Oh, yeah.
um, stories about those two that came out afterwards. But he cast somebody far more attractive than yourself in a movie. And not a knock on Rob Reiner. He was a handsome old man, for what he was. But to cast like Wesley from Princess Bride as you in a movie, basically, uh, is pretty funny. It's like if I make a movie about me and I cast Brad Pitt, I'm being pretty nice to myself, you know? I'm like, Brad's like the most beautiful dude in the world. Thank you.
I don't know if they wanted
But
to make it like super autobiographical, but I think it was almost like I want to say like a love story or like a note, but it's one of those things where it's just like acknowledging like addiction does exist, but putting it in a sort of a different setting, given that he didn't actually run for office.
yeah. Well, and I'm sure they were trying to put a positive spin on this thing, especially if he's the one that wrote it. So if
Totally.
if Reiner's son was the one that wrote it, then of course you're
Yeah,
gonna write you're gonna write your dark ending or you're gonna write your happy ending, right? And
sure.
so he wrote, it seems, what he would hope his happy ending was, and at the time he was I assume, being able to write it was in or near rehab, and was good with his dad, obviously, because they wrote it and directed it together. Like things were okay. Mental health was under control. Addiction was under control. So you write this stuff and you work together, and of course you see that light at the end of the tunnel. You don't plan on going completely nuts and losing control of yourself and
Right.
having everything go totally sideways. So yeah, it was obviously written through that lens. Um, but yeah, I think it's disappointing that it's not better. You would really hope that it would be a really, I don't know, poignant, like intelligent film or something that sticks with you. Like, I mean, when I think about movies about addiction, I think of like the Basketball Diaries and what's the one that you should only watch once and maybe not even that.
Requiem for a
Requiem for a
Dream.
Dream, yes, which is a brilliant movie, but that movie will make you sad for a very long time.
You know, the funny thing is, I still have yet to see that. That's probably one of my gaps in life. But I will tell you this: Train Spotting pretty much made
Mm.
me not ever want to take drugs ever, as far like especially heroin. There's a scene where he drops I think a needle into a toilet, and it's totally surreal. But he dives into the
Oh,
toilet, and
with
he's
addicts,
like,
there's nothing surreal about that.
yeah,
That
and
is
he's
a
like in
hundred
the
percent.
water,
Yep.
and it's
And
just
then they would
like.
use it right afterwards.
Yeah. So I'm like,
100%.
that is
100%.
disgusting. So why would you do that to yourself? So anyway, it was Train Spotting. That's the drug movie that comes to
Yeah.
mind for
Yeah.
me.
Train Spotting is always up there with Requiem for a Dream. I think those two, while not the same, I think Requiem for a Dream is a little more artsy. It definitely like it doesn't glorify drugs in any way because it is a brutal, brutal movie, but you you get to see because it takes a few different drugs. Like I think there's an older lady, I forget the actress's name off the top of my head, but she is on uppers, right? And so she starts to take them, and you see like her world, like everything's just too much, and it's like it's definitely some use of special effects and things like that to make it seem very, um, very over the top, and what I assume it is.
Ellen Burstyn, is that what you're talking
Yes,
about?
Ellen Bernstein. Um, and she's fantastic. Like she's great. But then you have, Leto and Jennifer Connelly, and then there's this heroine, and like that one is brutal. I mean, you see the just the downfall of that. It's it is it's a great movie. You just can't watch it. It's not quite like Schindler's List, which I think is sometimes hard to watch, but is a great movie, and I think is worth a rewatch sometimes because it's such a it's a tragic but beautiful story, right? Because Oscar Schindler he was a good man doing a good thing in a terrible time. Um, and there's some positivity to the end of that one. Whereas Requiem for a Dream, there is no happy ending to that film. There's no point in that movie where you're like, okay, we're good now. Everything's going to be great. It's just not that film. And neither is Basketball Diaries, to be fair.
Jack O'Connell he played a bit part corn dog stand attendant. That's pretty effing cool because Jack's now having a bit of a moment between Sinners and the upcoming 28 Days Later franchise or
Mm,
28 Years
yeah,
Later
yeah,
franchise.
the
So he's doing his thing.
Bone Temple or whatever it is.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, basically, yeah, yeah. Drugs are bad. If you ever said to yourself, maybe I should give those a shot, go watch Train Spotting and Requiem for a Dream, and then let me know if you still think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because definitely, and Basketball Diaries, like it's just what that will do to you and the position it will put you in, and the fact that you just lose yourself to this thing. It's tragic, and I've talked about it before, but not me personally. Like it hasn't happened to me, but I've experienced it. Like I've been through that, and so it's just I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And if that's what it takes to turn somebody off of it, I will sit them down, strap them to a chair, and have them watch those movies because it's dark. And I think what makes those movies work, and I don't know about this one that you just watched, uh, but they're very gritty, and at least that aspect of it is very realistic. Like it's not like cartoonish or garish or anything. Like this is what it does to you, and this is the position it puts you in.
Yep.
So
Yeah, no, like one of the final scenes, he relapses with a friend, and he luckily, I think, takes a smaller dose and gets a bloody nose. And then his friend, he comes back from wiping his nose, and his friend is full on seizing as he comes back, and then done.
yeah,
Heart stops, everything. So, uh, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this happens every day. And I think even just being cognizant of this is more common than you would think, particularly in families that are coming from a lot of means,
yeah,
unfortunately. And I think not that it was only for people of like lower economic status, but this is something in many cases that's very prevalent in wealthy communities.
Yeah, yeah. There's a whole lot of stuff about pill parties and stuff like that. That was, I don't know if that still happens. I feel like that was 2000s, early 2000s, and like there was whole things about people would bring all of the drugs that they could find in people's cabinets and then literally just dump them into a candy bowl like a fucking mixer, and people would just reach in and grab one, whatever it was, and then have the night that they're gonna have. And I'm like, that's nuts, man. That's
Yep.
really crazy. And I don't know how people, sometimes I don't know how we survive as a species because we're just idiots. But um yeah, it's a little crazy. And I mean, I can't really judge. Like I had friends that enjoyed their illicit substances my whole life. I had a roommate where I had to babysit their candy flipping parties. So like I've been through I've seen it, and and to be fair, like a lot of the time it just seems like they're having fun, you know, a little bit of what is it, Molly, or a little bit of acid or whatever, like as long as they come out on the other side, and you're laughing at them, at the end of the day, it doesn't feel like it's the worst thing in the world, but you've got to see it through the lens of people that actually get genuinely addicted to this stuff and how dangerous that is. Because that's where the bad happens.
I remember,
If it's somebody that can pull off, acid or mushrooms once in a blue moon, and then and have a good time with it, and then not have to go back to it every day, it's very different than somebody that needs that all day, every day, just to get by.
yeah, and I remember, I don't know if you guys ever got to see, there was short series called Painkiller with Matthew Broderick, and that was based on a true story about
Yeah.
Oxycontin.
I remember it. I didn't see it, but I remember
How
it.
it like made its way into like a lot of wealthy communities and
Hmm.
how they had a lot of beautiful women selling it to doctors and offices, and a lot of
Yep.
these doctors were entangled in these like affairs with the sales people that were selling Oxycontin. And then before they knew it, it was being recommended everywhere to everyone.
Hmm.
And yeah,
That was a huge, huge deal. And it's funny. It makes me think of LinkedIn recruiters. When I'm on LinkedIn and I get messages from recruiters and stuff, like so many of them are just very pretty women. I very rarely see, or not very rarely, but the ratio of men to women as recruiters, and the women that are very attractive as recruiters, um, is it's funny to me. At least what comes to me on LinkedIn. I can't speak for everybody, but I was like, you are certainly hiring people that, I don't know, I guess I have it a little easier in the door, right? Like,
Yeah, no, I want to say so much, but long story short is, of course.
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember like at one point, absolutely, like as a matter of fact, it was the same gig we were at, Lauren, and like one of the employees there was saying how like she was definitely encouraged to go into pharmaceutical sales because when you think about it, a lot of these doctors are kind of nerdy dudes who had to work really hard, didn't have social lives, they're probably awkward as hell. And then you get these like super hot, like co-eds or like 22, 23 year olds. Like the hotter you are, yes, you're absolutely being pushed forward. It's just it's business,
yep.
it's how you make money. And I know CVS in particular, I think they actually had to pay a huge fine, I think, because they were super guilty of prescribing all these medications. So at the end of the day, most, if not all, nefarious activities can be traced to one thing, and that is money. So, a lot of money was made from the OxyContin thing because it was legal. Like that's the difference.
Hmm. Yep.
And yeah, I mean, I guess if the DEA is going to do its thing and crack down on COINTELPRO and all that back in the 70s and 80s about destroying inner city communities with drugs, then let's keep making the money, keep the money flowing, and do it with legal stuff because
Yep.
hey, OxyContin's gonna revolutionize
And
the
and
malaise of people
like you
have
said,
boring
man, know your
lives.
audience. Know your
Yeah.
audience. If you know, if you're in sales, you know your audience. And if you're going to be successful at it, you know who you're selling to. And if that is, eh, number one, doctors in general is one of medicine, doctors and nurses, one of the most, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? The most likely to have affairs, most likely to,
Promiscuous. Yes.
that's the word I'm looking for. Yes. Just fields in general, right? So you put a beautiful woman in front of a doctor. Exactly. Like
It's high
even,
emotions, high
yeah.
stress, you know. Anyway,
And,
I think it's hilarious,
and
personally.
it's almost more effective when they are just flirting and then they leave the room. If they're like, well,
Keep them wanting more,
I'll be
man.
back next time if you get, and it's literally street drug pushing, but in a skirt and in a business office,
I,
like, yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, Oxy was one of those ones that, it just got so prevalent. It was so easy for the people that could get it easily to then turn around and sell it to people, or their kids could steal it from their cabinets or whatever. Like, yeah, it got to be too big of a deal because it was too close to heroin. Like the effects are close enough that
correct.
it's either the gateway or the one that you go to because it's easier to get. But
Correct.
either way, it's
I mean, that's where it
bad news.
started in the film, where he's going through somebody's cabinets, and this
Mm.
guy's really into prescription medication. And then towards the end, it ends with cocaine, which is probably laced with God knows what. And one survived and one died. And unfortunately, that's what happens sometimes when they can't have access to pills anymore. They get stuff on the street, and that's what leads to death.
Yeah.
So, yep, it was a lot of, yeah, definitely not good. They didn't really talk about this guy's mental illness or anything like that. The character itself was an aspiring comic. So, I shouldn't say inspiring. He enjoyed writing his own jokes. And at one point, they had like a talent show for those that were in the halfway house. He performs. He's very funny. Even the guy who's, I don't want to say is his like guardian, but more or less like overseeing and is responsible for him at the halfway house, who I think, is it Common who plays him?
Yes.
Yeah. So Common plays him. Yep. And you could tell he's like a cool guy and genuinely cares about the well-being and overall interests of those that have made it to, we'll say, step two of the recovery process. But he even said, you got funny material. Definitely continue working on that. And yeah, and unfortunately he spirals and his parents aren't helpful, and particularly the father wants him pretty much out of the spotlight completely during this time, where during press conferences people are asking him,
Because he's a
what are
politician.
you
Yeah, he
trying,
does.
right,
Yeah.
you don't want to expose the truth when you're at the final couple of weeks of your campaign, and that's more or less what happens. So timing's not good. The mother's definitely much more enabling and wanting to bring him back. Cary's character, his father, David, who's running for governor, is like, nope, we'll have him away as long as possible. Keep him away. Don't want to see him until like after this is all done. Which is tough because at this point it's like a few months since he had seen his kid, and I'm sure his son feels a certain way, like a lack of love and support when you don't see your parent, almost like you're choosing your career over the love and well-being of your child. So it's hard, and maybe these were feelings that Nick Reiner felt. I don't know.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's got to be hard being the kid of a famous
Yep.
person in general, right? Like, and I'm not saying it's
Rob's
an
bad with
excuse.
famous too, though.
Well,
What's
that
that?
Exactly.
as
I
No, no,
well.
I'm not saying it's an excuse, but I'm saying like it depends on your personality, right? Like if you are somebody, there's definitely people that don't necessarily need as much parental affection as other people. There's people that are okay without it, and there's some people that need that interaction on the regular. And if they don't have it, they feel a certain way about it. And that then it depends on how you deal with that. And then, then you have this spiraling effect of what you do about it and things like that. Like if you get good therapy and you're able to talk about it and go through all that, probably, in a lot of cases, not a big deal. You work it out. You just get mad at your parents for a while and then life goes on. But if you, if you're a weaker person in that regard, you make the wrong choices and go down the road that he went down. So yeah, it's definitely, I don't envy, the children of rich parents. Like I really don't like highly successful or highly, um, yeah, just highly successful. I mean, you look at a lot of the parents, like, even look at the, like Kim Kardashian and, her kid was with Kanye West, right? Or no,
Kim's, yeah.
Four
yeah,
kids with Kanye.
yeah. And so like, they're both off doing shit. Like I know that, like, I'm not saying she's a bad mom by any stretch of the imagination. I can't speak to that because I don't know, but I know that she's very busy. Like she actually, she's very active in the work that she does do. And so when do you find the time to be an attentive parent? Like for me, like as a parent, one of the things that I loved about my job as I got later into it was the ability to work from home, the ability to spend more time with my kids, to be around my kids more. My kids have never had time without at least one of their parents around, right? And for me, that seems like it's a good thing. I don't know. Maybe we ask my kids when they grow up and they'll be like, God damn it, my parents were around all the time. They sucked. I don't know. But like, but you've got rich and famous parents that are so busy filming 6 months out of the year that they can't be home. Sure, they can do a FaceTime call or something like that, but it's not a personal interaction. And especially like living where I live, there's a lot of affluent people who look at their kids and they're like, cool, I had a kid. I'm going back to work. My husband's going back to work because both of them work. And then they just have a nanny or something or daycare. So they're not even really raising their kids. And by the end of the day, they come home, they're too tired to do anything with their kids. So they just send them off to do their thing and then they go. To be fair, we lived like that in the 80s, right? The latchkey kids, but we also didn't have the nannies and the daycare. We just got left at home, you know?
Correct.
And so
So that's why I'm just having, I might seem like a hard ass, but like my sympathy only goes so far. It really does.
yeah,
I think that um having money is not everything. Not
no,
having it
no.
is. Not having it is. So to me, it's like
Hmm.
I think if people live to learn more gratefully, they'll be happier. I don't think
Yep.
anything I'm saying is wrong. But I just think it's some tough words that need to be fucking told. Like you have to shift your perspective. Happiness is what everybody wants. But I think the first step is to appreciate what you actually have.
Yep. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people, and I think it's the newer money people, because you always hear about like the Gen X parents, or sorry, the baby boomer parents, were always good about that because like they had money, they had things, but they didn't. A lot of them didn't really act like it, right? So you had to earn the shit that you wanted, from your parents and in life. And I think people that are exceptionally rich, either I think the good ones still do that. Like they treat life like they don't necessarily have everything, and they try and do their best with it. And then there's a lot that are just like, just take the money, go do your thing, get out of my hair. You can go do whatever you want. Here's your Ferrari at 16. Have a great life. Like I think that's irresponsible.
It
Like
is.
my son actually asked me today. He's like, "Well, if you got a billion dollars, would you buy me a car?" I was like, "Yeah, I'd buy you a shitty one." I was like, "You got to learn how to drive. You got to hit a few things. Like, you've got to be responsible, or you've got to experience life before you can actually understand it, right? And if everything's handed to you, you're going to be a shithead."
Yeah, 100%. But I think, like as Andrew said, just there has to be some accountability
Yeah.
because when there isn't, that's where, and granted, we don't know the full story. We'll learn more, I imagine, over the next couple months when it comes to Nick Reiner. How many times was he in treatment? And I'm just looking at some stats now. It looks like on average, it takes recoveries often involve several attempts with a median of 9 years from first treatment to last used for those with long-term recovery.
Yeah, and addiction, depending on who you are. Like there really are people that simply don't get addicted. There are people that can fight addiction easily. And then there are people that just can't. And whether that's genetic, whether that's mental, whether it's, biological, I don't know.
think
I'd have to really see studies on that. But like there really are people that can do some pretty shitty drugs and then
right,
be like, well, that was fun. I'm good. And then there's some people that do it once and they can never not do it again.
right,
So, that's it's one of those things that's unfair, right? Like if it really is a biological thing, right? Like if it just affects your brain in a different way and it becomes something your brain immediately needs and you can't fight it, that's that's harsh, dude. I mean, that's not fair. That's biology just being like, oops, you know?
That's when you know, like where it's like if you like, oh, I like this way too much. Mm-mm. You just have to
Yeah.
like cut yourself off. And trust me, I will say, I'll just say in life, I'm that kind of like I know. Oh yeah, no, that's not good. Mm-mm. Cut off,
Yeah.
because it's like because you have a bigger goal in mind in life.
Yeah.
So some people can go. You have to. It's otherwise. I'm the kind of person where if I cut myself off completely from something, in most cases, it's only gonna make me want it more. So it's almost like you have to have that pressure valve thing. I'll have like pizza once in a while, for example, right? Whereas other things where it's just like it's no bueno, like you dude, no, the line's
Yep.
over here. I'm way the fuck over there because I know how this ends. So I do think it's just a matter of again knowing also self-awareness,
right.
like a game of poker, like knowing what hand you've been dealt and then play accordingly. Don't go
Yeah.
in knowing you've got the I love cocaine hand to a cocaine party.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to control this thing. And like it's funny too because we talked about this in our group chat, like how I don't drink, I don't smoke, don't do drugs, don't do that. But one of the biggest reasons people are like, if I ever tell people I don't drink, they're like, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" And I'm like, "What do you
Yeah.
mean?" I'm like, "Nothing happened." I was like, I looked at the people around me that did it and partied and had a great time, and I watched them become somebody different, and not necessarily bad all the time, but just there was either less control, some people get angry, some people get stupid, whatever. And I was always just like, I'm good. Like I know who I am and I'm just going to be that guy. And that's fine for me. Like I don't need to do it. Plus, it does not hurt that every time I have ever taken a sip of alcohol or a shot, it's like just burning fire down my throat. And I'm like, I don't need that. I don't like
Oh,
people are like, well, you get used to it. I'm like, but I don't have to.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to do that. Like I don't need to get used to something to feel the effects of it that I don't really want anyways. So like I was always good and but I've never judged the people that do it. Like
All right.
I had a lot of friends that they're like, we're going to a party, you coming? I'm like, shit, let's go. And I made sure they got home okay. Took care of them, hung out with them. I didn't like shove them off into a corner so they go do dumb shit. Like, it is what it is. And people are going to be, who they're going to be. And if you judge them or hate them for this one side of them, then either they're not for you or you got to look at yourself. So, it just, like I said, it was never for me because I was always happy with who I am, personality wise. And then I always felt like if somebody wants me to be somebody else to be cool with me, then that's their problem, not mine.
And I
Amen.
think now it's becoming a lot less stigmatizing if you don't drink than it was even maybe like 5, 10 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, big time. I think that is a big like Gen Z like thing.
Yeah. But even I see it like, I mean, Andrew, you and I work together. What do we do on Fridays? We went to a happy hour, like it is what it is, right? But I noticed even just in the corporate world within post COVID, it's not like, all right, like we'll have happy hour, but also we're gonna throw in an activity and stuff and you guys do things that are not alcohol related, which opens it up for, I mean, less issues down the line. And I mean, I've always heard stories, and I was never at like a holiday party, but like from my old company, and even just I've heard from like my current company where, oh, holiday party, someone got too drunk.
Yeah.
CLMs, career limiting moves. Someone pulled a
Right.
CLM last night. Like that was like that was from Yelp. But anyway, like CLM, dude,
Yeah.
you're done.
The other
Yeah.
note I was going to make, guys, I listened to a bunch of podcasts, and I don't know if it was on Mel Robbins or one of the podcasts I listened to, but addiction has significantly increased since COVID with a lot of, and this is just in general, people are more likely to dabble in things due to the loneliness and seclusion and not having to go into work in many cases as often as possible. People were really struggling.
That's a funny thing. And Andrew, if and we and I have talked about this a lot. Like he and I, COVID was like
I
fucking
know.
incredible. Like I didn't have to go to work. I could still work with the people I
Right.
work with. I didn't have to leave my house. I didn't have to go see people face to face. It was
While
like
you
a,
guys were walking on sunshine, a lot of people were not.
yeah, I
And
know.
Andrew was flying. He was like, I'm here.
Yeah, it's one of those things like I don't understand. I'm like, how are you not happy to be at home? Like I was like, I don't get it. And like I really
Depends
did
on
like
your situation,
yeah.
Kevin.
And it's just it's one of those things like I don't understand, but I thrived in it. Like it was my jam because but I was very lucky because in my job I was ramping my clients up to that anyways. I was doing everything I could to work remotely for the people that I had as clients because I work in IT for anybody who doesn't know. And like I had one client where I would build their laptops, and so I would go to the office and their office and configure their laptops, and I was like, why don't you guys give me a bunch of them to take home? I will just hold on to them. You tell me when they're ready, and they gave me their FedEx number. I would build a laptop, have it shipped. Instead of doing it every Tuesday, I would have it done the day of, shipped out the next day, and it was faster. And they're
Yeah,
like, "That's great." And they're like, "Well, we need work on this thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can get to that from home." I was like, "You don't have to wait for me to come out there." You
right.
know, I was like, let's just get it done. And I was faster that way. I was more efficient that way.
Yeah.
And so when COVID hit, I was just like, this is what we're doing already. Let's go.
Right.
And I never had to go back. Like I haven't been in, I've been to one office since I moved to Connecticut out in 2020.
Do you know what I say to all that? And it was so funny. My older brother actually said that. And I totally agree with him. He's like, for all those people who are miserable during COVID, well, guess what? That's how we introverts feel in
Mhm.
normal life
All day.
all the time. Okay. So just think about that for a second. It was so terrible for you. That's what I had to like, that's what I lived with all the way
Yeah.
up until COVID. So you know what? I'm good. I don't really
Yeah.
care. Like you guys are being way too helpless. Like you have control. Like there is internet. You can go out and meet people. Like whatever. Like stop it. But we, on the other hand, literally have to like power through our discomfort just to appear normal.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's true, but it is. It's like one of those things. This is 100% a personality thing, or at least
Oh,
Again, it
Brain
is in
chemistry, wiring.
yeah. Is that biology? Is it like how you were raised? I don't know what makes us this way, but yeah, yeah. Like
I think it's sorry. I think it's dopamine. I think it's basically my threshold, like my overload threshold is way lower. My need for stimulation is like way lower
yes,
than like the average person. Um, that's basically what about so I'm overloaded easily just from like people,
yeah,
and I don't know if it's like I do think I'm an empathic actually. So I also am not like I don't want your fucking emotions. But I'm also just a deeply it's not conflating myself, but I'm also a deeply curious, intelligent person who I'm like, I'm sorry, there's so much other shit I could be doing right now instead of just having a small talk, like it's just, ugh,
yep.
Anyways, let me calm down now. You can cut that part out if you want.
Yeah, but I'm 100% with like that is who I am. I'm the same way. Like I
Yeah,
do not need if most of the time I do not need people. Like I tell people, I'm like, yeah, I moved here 5 years ago.
that's why we fucking like get
I
along, dude.
I don't know anybody in this town. Like I finally branched out only because they opened a coffee shop at because my town is fucking tiny. They opened a coffee shop and I work at least once a week. I go there for 2 hours and just work from there, just to get out of the house. And the craziest thing about it, the absolute craziest thing about it, is I met the coffee shop owner She is literally my neighbor, not on the same street. She lives next door to me.
Sick.
I was like, this is, it was wild. And so, like, yeah, her and her husband run the coffee shop and they live literally next door, which here is a different thing. If it was back in California, that means like literally I could reach out and touch their house in the
Right.
suburbs, right?
Yeah.
Here I've got like an acre between houses, you know? And so it's definitely different and it's I'm less likely to see or speak to my neighbors unless I'm an extrovert, unless I go out there and you know try to bump into people. But yeah, like I haven't like I don't know anybody in town because I don't do social things. I don't go to bars. I don't go to things like that. So
Can I say something though? That whole
yeah,
coffee shop thing, like she's living the dream. Like I know people who would love nothing more than just to have their own coffee shop. Like, and
yeah,
and she's doing it. So I just love hearing that story because it's like, wow, people are actually doing that. It's not just like a
yeah.
dream, like, oh, can I just like quit my job and open a coffee shop and just like
It's
that's
not
awesome.
easy. It's not. It took
I'm
them a
sure.
long time. Like I think it took them a year and a half to finally get open. They roast their own beans, which I think is amazing. That's a big deal. Um, but like I've watched them have to shift their hours around to make sure that they're not paying people for time that literally nobody comes in and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And because we're such a small town and they're off the beaten path, like they close at like 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Like they're
Yeah.
not open. They
Keep
they
costs
tried they
down.
tried 7 to 5 for a long time, and
Yeah.
then they were like, well, we're gonna do 8 to 5, and then they're like, well, we're gonna do 8 to 4, and then it's 8 to 2 now. And so, you know, you've got to balance that stuff because you're paying for everything. Um, and because it's a small town, like they have, um, you know, other local businesses, they sell their stuff inside the coffee shop. It's a cute little coffee shop. Like it's actually really neat. They did a really great job on it. Um, but like, I don't necessarily envy that startup, that early stage, for any kind of restaurant industry. Like if you don't have something, like I've always said, like restaurants without bars, I don't understand how they're successful. Alcohol is the most profitable thing you have in a restaurant, hands down. And if you don't have that, I don't get how you can be successful. It's
Where are
just,
your margins, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. It's like food is so expensive and you can't charge too much for food that's mediocre, right? And so it's this weird balance. Like having worked in food for a long time,
Yeah.
like if you don't have a bar, because I know a liquor license isn't cheap, but a shitty bottle of vodka from your vendor that you can sell to everybody is like $10. And then you charge $5 a shot and there's 30 shots in a bottle.
Do the math.
That's a crap ton of money for alcohol. Like alcohol is very, very profitable unless you're an idiot and buy a ton and then don't sell it. Like you also have to know who a little bit of who you're selling to because uh, inventory does not help you in that regard. Having enough to get through is exactly where you want to be, and that bit's tricky. And I think that's the other thing they're probably going through running this restaurant. But
Tangent of tangents.
I
That
know I
was
was like, remember when we were talking about Rob Reiner and drugs? Um, but yeah,
Oh,
it's wild out there, and I actually like part of me is like, damn, I wish I could just retire and go work for them. Like I would totally like I would barista at a coffee shop happily. Like that, especially because I was a bartender. Like I was like that would be a fun job for me. I like coffee. I make myself a drink, work.
Saloni loves coffee and
Yeah.
Saloni loves coffee shops. So I know she would be down with that life for sure.
Oh, yeah. It seems like coffee's a cool thing too when you get into roasting it and all that stuff. It's pretty cool.
French
And then
press
like the different
only,
regions
all that
and
stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
All that
roasts
stuff.
and all that. And this place has a lighter roast on their coffee, so it definitely tastes different than everywhere else. Um, so yeah, it's fun.
Cool.
But
So no drugs go into coffee.
yes, do coffee, not drugs, kids.
Coffee, not drugs.
And if you need a downer, just I don't know, take a fucking nap. But yeah, drugs are bad. But anyways, so that was what were we even talking about? Being Charlie, which sounds like an okay movie.
No,
If
it's not.
anything, I think maybe it's a creative insight into Nick Reiner's mind when he was okay.
Sure.
Like how he probably, I have to assume that writing that and have it feeling, a little autobiographical for him
Sure.
is like you're kind of seeing his vision of the world when he was in a relatively good space.
More stable.
Yeah, and so I think that is definitely interesting.
I mean, did you check
Um,
the ratings?
it was a 6.2 on IMDb. That's not the worst.
I'm going off of Rotten
What
Tomatoes.
is it on there?
23% from the critics, and I believe it was like a 30% from the
That's
audience.
brutal.
All right, so that movie sucks.
But yet, one of the top on two, well, it's obviously due to the
Yeah,
relevancy of
100%,
what just
100%.
happened. Otherwise, again, wouldn't have ever known that this movie existed.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like it definitely does not have like big name potential. I mean, Cary Elwes is the biggest name in it by a long way.
Robinson
Um,
is in a lot of stuff, or he's
he's
been
been
around.
around, like but I don't know him by name. If I look
Okay.
at his face, like I've seen him before, but if you just dropped his name, I
Did you
wouldn't
say Craig
know.
Robinson, you said?
No, Craig Robinson, I know.
Nick
Okay, cool.
Robinson.
Oh, I
Nick
know who it is.
Robinson,
All right, all right.
white
I feel like
kid.
much
Craig
more maybe
Craig
like
Robinson is a
my
hilarious
generation,
black dude.
Yes.
like millennials know Nick Robinson.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's and they put Common in there. Yeah,
Yeah, I've never
it's
seen it.
Actually, yeah, Common is probably the next biggest name,
Yeah.
actually. He's done a great job with his acting career, actually.
He was in
Um,
that the Keanu Reeves movie, John Wick. That was like a
yeah,
pretty interesting turn for him. Like action, okay,
he's
cool.
really good in Silo on Apple TV,
Ah, yes.
which I really enjoyed. I think they did 2 or 3 seasons so far. I liked it enough that I went and read all the books, so I actually know how the show's going to end now when they finish it. But I enjoyed it a lot.
Cool.
It's a good show, good books. But if you ever read the books, don't read the extra like bits that dude wrote at the end. He did this thing where he did like 6 short stories afterwards. A couple are prequels that are fine, but there's one that like takes place afterwards, and it's just shit. Like it totally just throws away the ending of the story, and people just hate it. So I would make that recommendation, or at least read them knowing that you're probably going to be pissed when you read at least one of them. Like it's just like what? It was just completely underdeveloped and sucked. But otherwise, the show itself is really good. But we can probably move on from that. Um, and I'll go quick, I think, because I really want to talk about it when you get caught up. But I'll talk about Fallout really quick. They've done 4 episodes so far. We talked about season 1 last year, and great show. I really enjoy Fallout. I think this season is still pretty solid. I looked it up when we were talking before the show, and it's somewhere. Every episode is an 8, 8.1, 7.8, right in there. They're all right around that area. So it's doing well. I don't know what the viewership is like, but one of the things that worked last season, and I think it's drifting this season, is that the first season you kind of had everybody together. Right. You had little Ella Purnell and her cute big eyes, and you had the super like nerdy but cool black dude in the armor suit. And
Maximus.
yes, yes. And and then you had the ghoul, and then you had the vault people. And while all those stories were a little separate after a while, they were also sort of came from the same place. So they all felt really connected. This season it's more broad. So at the end of the first season, her brother gets trapped in this vault with all like the
Vault
frozen
31.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
So he's stuck in there. So you've got his story. Ella Purnell and the Ghoul have left on their story. So they're out in the world. The Maximus is out on his own. You have the original vault that has their story. They're adding this backstory to the Ghoul's character. So you go back in time with him a lot this season,
Okay.
which you did last season, but you go back a lot this one, and they're adding in a character that is like your quiet, like background big bad for the Vegas area.
Yes, 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 yes. Uh-huh.
And so like it's all over the place, and the storytelling is good, but it just feels like every 10 minutes or so you're in a different story, and then you're bouncing around, and like I said, it's not that it's bad. The stories are good, the acting is good, it looks great. Especially in this fourth episode, they introduce one of the meanest, nastiest monsters in the Fallout like
Pantheon.
universe. Yeah, it's called the Death Claw, and they're big, mean, and scary. But it's just I don't know. It feels like it needs to be tightened up to be better. Uh, like it's not bad. It is good. Like all the storytelling is good. It's interesting. It's just it's almost like they're doing too much. I would almost rather see it be like two shows. Have a show that's focused on one group, kind of like you're looking at The Boys and Gen V, right? Like split that up and do two shows and have it be a little more interesting in that regard.
So here's the thing, right? So I distinctly remember season one of Fallout. Like, I'll be honest, like I kind of pushed my way to the finish line, and I didn't feel like it was. I enjoyed it until the final episode. Everything else was kind of like, and also, of course, that one funny scene where the guy's all F, like the before, like you remember that scene anyway. It was
Yeah,
yeah, it was a
when he's
stupid
in
thing.
the armor.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like he was such a D bag. But anyway, that was funny. And then of course now I think about it, Okie dokie, she's so cute,
yeah,
whatever.
she's adorable.
But so for me, when I started this season, like I did like the big bad Justin Theroux. Like I
Hmm.
liked that little opening scene. I also liked going back to I forget the name of the place already, but you see, of course, Maximus as a kid and the kind of like what happened as far as like where they lived and how that got blown up.
Yeah.
But then outside of that, like I just find the ghoul a bit like he's a bit of a D-bag and
Hmm.
like you know, basically I stopped right after they fend off the scorpions, and that's kind of like where I stopped. And just kind of because I'm just like, I don't know, man, like I don't know if I can like push myself through. That said, though, like I may just try to keep going. It sounds like it gets better. I know the rule of thumb typically is you gotta give a show at least three episodes before you finally just call it quits. But I just remember last year, like, dude, like I think it was eight episodes, and it was only until episode eight where I really said, okay, you know what, my time wasn't wasted.
I,
So,
I
what do you,
feel
what do you
like
think?
if a show like this that you're probably ultimately going to like enough, but isn't like you're not itching for it, it's probably better to wait until it's all out. And then
Yeah.
you just blow through it because you don't have that time in between to forget about it, which I can definitely do. Like I can start a show and be like, I like this show, it's pretty good. But if I wait in between, like if I can forget about it, maybe it wasn't, even though it was a decent show, I didn't love it, and that's okay too. Like there's been a handful of those that I did like, but I just never went back and finished for whatever reason. Like life got in the way, and then something new came out, and I was like, "That's shinier. I'm gonna go play with that." You know?
And you know what's funny? Like it's and there's actually there's success stories there, right? Because like for example, going back like in the Wayback Machine, Agents of Shield. Like I remember I fell off of that in the middle of season three, and then it kept going, and then like everyone was like, dude, it's getting better, So finally, I went back and finished up until season five, and then was there and watched season six as it ended, and it was perfect. It worked out.
Hmm.
Picard, same thing. I dropped off, I think, in the beginning of season
Two.
two
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, this is like Star Trek: The Voyage Home all over again. So I dropped off. Then season three comes out, and it's like, oh, it's about to be like everyone's back. Okay, now I got to go back and like finish season two,
Yeah.
and I liked it. So hopefully this will be the same thing here. I'm doing that with the boys, not the boys. Shoot. Oh my God, Invincible. Invincible. I'm
Yeah.
going back.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
catching myself up in that because the new season comes out this spring. So, and it's cool. Like it's not like awesome, I'll admit, but it's like it's cool. So I'm kind of inching my way through that as well. So I guess I say all of that to say I'm disappointed that I wasn't like, oh my God, I love this show. But at the same time, I know that it's not necessarily the end. And the last thing I'll say really quick is, damn, like this show, it's number one on Amazon right now. But I swear to God, like they must have been like, damn you, Stranger Things, because nobody cared. Between Stranger Things and New Year's, like no, it dropped and no one's talking about it. But I think now people are starting to talk about
Yeah.
Fallout
Well,
because
it's funny because it's great timing that they were able to turn the show around in a year. as opposed to Stranger Things, which takes a
Three.
fucking millennia to make a goddamn episode. But at the same time, they just dropped it, like you said, at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Like Stranger Things is a fucking juggernaut, and everybody's gonna go watch Stranger Things, and this one also drops weekly
Yeah.
versus Stranger Things, which technically was three different
Batches.
drops, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, you know, for me on streaming, if your show isn't the most twisting and turning and brilliant show out there that just leaves people guessing, just release it all at once.
Yeah.
Give us the story to watch. I know that we'll, we'll fall off and forget about it or whatever. But streaming is tricky like that. I think shows that
Like
drop
Dark should have been episodic or weekly, for example.
should have been, but
Yeah.
also that one just wouldn't have hit audiences in the same way. That one actually benefited from quietly releasing on Netflix because it's actually a German show. I think
Okay.
it's German. Um, and if if you could have got people to watch it, I don't think it would have been as popular anyways because it's so intelligent and so deep that it wouldn't hit that broad audience,
Got it. Makes
right?
sense.
Um, where, for as much as I love Lost, I think Lost generally was a more generally
Accessible.
like, yeah, accessible is the word we were looking for. Yeah. Show. It really was. And I think if you go watch Dark, number one, you have to put your phone down. You
And
have to
pay
put
attention.
everything
That's,
down.
that's all I do, man. That's the only
Yeah.
way I watch TV anyway. I
It
can't do the
is it is
background
one
thing.
of the smartest shows I have ever seen. It's 3 seasons. They knew exactly what they were doing the whole time, so it ends where they want it to end. When the first season ends, you're just like, what the shit just happened? Like it is absolutely brilliant and messes with time and time travel and all of that in a way that is just
All right. I'm
un
sold.
unbelievable. Like it is an incredible show. I think um it remind me if you do decide to watch it, I think I put the website in our chat, but I found a website that's like explains the show, but in a really cool way that you can actually say what episode you're on. So you can watch the episode, and if you feel confused at all, you can read this thing and it kind of like explains the things that you may have missed or the things that are in there without spoiling things down the line. So it's just like explaining the episodes to you as you go if you want it to. Um, but it's an incredible show.
Well, that definitely will be taking that seriously. And by the way, a buddy of mine, shout out to Randy, what's up? He came to me and was like, "Do you have any recommendations on binge-worthy shows?" And he said no Stranger Things because he knew. So then I just kind of like gave him a whole bunch of them. But then I did drop BSG as well as Lost, and I told him that I hadn't seen Lost. So if you want to kick it old school, and he actually said I had not seen Lost, and I'm like, dude, do it. So hopefully he sees it because it'll enrich your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one too. Um, you got to pay attention to it. Pay attention. It's not like dark. Like you don't have to, pay attention to every fucking absolute second of the show. There are definitely moments you can look away or whatever, but just pay attention to the characters and what's going on. I don't understand ever why people were confused by the ending of that show. Like I just
I'll leave that. Well, you know what I think. But
yeah.
I'll also say really quick, this is a plug. I also went back and I'm actually like listening to the guys get lost podcast episodes because now that I've seen like all of Lost, I'm listening to what Pete would say, what Andy would say, what I would say as you're going along. And I gotta say, Kevin, you had a lot of restraint, dude. Because we were saying some wild stuff, and like you didn't even try to like correct us. It was great.
No,
So it was fun.
dude, because I lived through that. The only other thing that I remember being like that, like really, because it was mysterious enough, was the first season of Westworld.
Right.
The first season of Westworld, people were trying to figure out, and we were still in a time where TV and social media weren't just on top of each other. And now it's everywhere. Now we have, all the problems that we have with being a big deal. We talked about it. As soon as you're big enough, everybody's opinions start to matter, even if they're nobody. and everybody's a critic, and it just gets super difficult. But yeah, so cool. That was Fallout. Definitely. I would say like for you, honestly, I would wait until the last episode drops and then just kind of power through them because I think there's going to be things in there, each one that you find that you enjoy. And I do think with the spread out storytelling that they're doing, it's a little harder to go week to week because you're only getting like these little slices of each story and then you're waiting, as opposed to if you had either one story that you were waiting for week to week or something like that. I think it would be easier to digest. And so if you do them all at once, I think that stuff will kind of blend together a little better.
Cool.
So live that streaming binging life, and I think you'll be a little more into it. Um, but yeah, so this is, I think, going to be the last thing we talk about. I'll save his and hers for next week because I really need to watch more of it anyways. But Lauren, you watched Heated Rivalry, which I have seen tons of news about.
Buzz.
I didn't see any marketing for it. Like I had no idea what it was. And then all of a sudden there was something about a gay hockey show. And I was like, what are you talking about? And it was a big deal. And now it's out there. So tell us about Heated
Tell
Rivalry.
you about your next watch. So essentially, this show is based on a book or a series by this person, Rachel Reed, who released several books. And the last, I guess, or at least the seventh book is called Unrivaled, which centers around the two main characters, Ilya, who's a Russian hockey player, and Shane Hollander, who's from Canada. And both of these actors are like pretty new to the, I guess, Hollywood scene. One is from Austin, Texas, but learns how to speak with a Russian accent very well to the point where I was convinced that this guy was Russian. And the other one, half Asian, half white, Canadian actor. His name is Hudson Williams, and he's been interviewed quite a bit now. But their love story is based on an 8 to 10 year season or series of seasons where they first meet. They're two new rookies and they're the best in the world. And they develop this relationship. And Shane, who's the Canadian, he is like new to this. He hasn't been in relationships before. He's young. He's very much so motivated to being the best. And his parents, particularly his mother, is very much so about getting him to the spotlight and also making sure that he is getting recognition, not just for his performance on the ice, but also just through different deals like Rolex and other products where he's able to promote himself and obviously create more opportunities for children that look like him and boys in particular that look like him who are not as well represented in the NHL. So that's more of just his drive. And then you've got Ilya, who comes from a very strict Russian background. Mother died when he was young. Father's really on top of him, wanting him to be the best. And is you get a gist of just his abusive upbringing and very much so concentrating on his goal is to be the best, but more so to bring wealth to the family. And as you can imagine, where they are in Russia, like they need him to support their means. So this relationship evolves. Ilya, who is the Russian skater, you learn has had relations with another man in the past, but it was more just casual. And then Shane, this is his first encounter, I think, ever with a person, not even really understanding that like he has an attraction for men, or maybe not even thinking about it of his sexuality until this encounter. But more or less, these guys get very close with one another, being number one and number two in the world. And the first two episodes are just very sex heavy and super steamy. Women, men, mostly gay men, are posting about this show. Chelsea Handler, I saw a preview of it on HBO Max as like top 10 within the past couple of weeks. And this came out initially at the end of November, but Chelsea Handler mentioned it. And then you see different posts on social media about this queer love story that takes place in the 2000s, starting in 2008, and the end of it in, I think, 2017. And how over the course of these 8, 9, 10 years, this forbidden love story, and remind me a little bit of like Fellow Travelers, which I watched in 2024, which was about the lavender scare and politics, just forbidden love and how it's built and hidden for many years. So, yeah, you get to learn about these two guys who grow professionally. They start off as rookies, then get drafted together, and they're positioned in the media as enemies. Number one and number two, they hate each other, but really, whenever they play each other once or twice a year, they're, as soon as the game's done, it's what room are you in? And then jumping right to the hotel room, making sure that no one sees them, etc. There then is like a number three player, or at least a very great player who's based out of New York, and his name is Scott Hunter. And he has a separate love story in the third or fourth episode. And guys, I found it to be beautiful. It's a guy who lost both his parents and is really just has the weight on his shoulders to be successful and to really make his family proud. He's the star player on this New York team, and he falls in love with the guy at the juicery, the juice bar. Think of it as like Joe the Juice or one of those like type of chains. And he just falls in love with this guy, and they have, the secret relationship, and he gives him tickets to his game. And that relationship inspires the relationship that Shane and Elia have for each other to eventually become more so powerful and consistent, because prior to like the end of the series, and obviously I'm assuming you guys aren't going to watch this, but maybe you do. I don't know. For some reason, I think this might not be your type of tea. So nonetheless, cup of tea. It really transforms into like this emotional love story, and just how bonds can really grow over the course of a number of years, and even acceptance as a result of what happens with this third player that's not in this love story, right? He finds love elsewhere. But after winning the cup, and I think this is such a beautiful moment, everyone's surrounded by their family and they come onto the ice, and he's by himself because his parents are deceased. He doesn't have loved ones. And then he reaches out and waves down his secret boyfriend in the audience, the juice guy, and he comes out onto the ice and he embraces him and kisses him, and that's his way of coming out. You then see a few weeks later, he's giving like some sort of speech, which is similar, or they parallel to like the ESPY Awards, as he was given this award. And he not only is grateful for his accomplishments as a player, but also his coming out story that resulted in this. And this coming out story inspires Elia and Shane to see each other more outside of just when they're playing one another, which is maybe once or twice a year, and spending more time with one another. And then finally at the end, they come out to his parents, and then coming up with that, like, and it's not really told what would happen, but what is this going to look like in a couple of years? Are we going to be silent and just be secret lovers and then just wait another 10, 15 years, whatever we have in us, until we can come out? And I think that's just really, really sad for a lot of people that have to live and love secretly because of all of the heartache that they fear having to come to face with as a result of just not being accepted, and particularly in an industry where it's not as common. This is not a place where it's often very accepted. And when you think of contact sports in particular, like hockey, it's such a masculine sport, and even the fan base. And
Yeah.
I if you guys remember Michael Sam, the football player, and like he was, I think, one of the first like major athletes that came out as gay, and what
Yep.
he had to go through was
Yeah,
horrible.
it's rough for sure.
Yeah.
The one thing I can say about the show is the ratings are insane. It's 9.1 on IMDb,
Every
98%.
episode's about 9. Yep.
The final two episodes are both 9.9
Yep.
with
Fantastic.
60,000 and 35,000 reviews. Like it's not like this is
Yep.
the writer's parents were like, "Hey, they did a good job. I'm going to give it a 10." Like
Right.
it is rating out really, really well. There's
Yeah.
no episode less than a 9.3.
Correct.
It's only 6 episodes, so it actually looks like it goes pretty quick.
Short.
It
Yep.
doesn't
Yep.
say how long they are, but I assume they're an hour long.
45 minutes to an hour. Yeah.
You're muted,
I'm
Andrew.
not gonna lie, the first two episodes, I was like, are they just gonna have sex the entire time? Because that's just how I felt. Like you see that they get feelings for each other, and particularly Ilya, the Russian player, is like very flirty and like and Shane's more just questioning sexuality, like, am I gay? I didn't know I could feel like this and whatnot, and him having his first sexual experiences with a man nonetheless. But it's so sex heavy where I'm like, is this like, is there an actual storyline, or are they just gonna have sex the entire time? That's what I was honestly thinking after the first two. But then the story gets better, and I think having that like outside love story between, I'm gonna call him the juice man and the third player, I think at first I was like, is this just to say like there is other love stories that showcase homosexuality between, two men, and just letting you know, but really this second story really elevates the main two characters in the series and their love story, and strengthens their bond as a result of that third guy coming out. But yeah, and I understand like a lot of straight men probably are like, I don't know if I want to watch this, and it's a lot. They show a lot, and I enjoyed every moment of it. But nonetheless, I think it's not something that's been done before, series wise, about a sport like this. It's different, and I definitely shed a couple of tears in the last episode for sure. I was It's a beautiful thing, and I think it's something that we're going to hear more about. And the guy who plays Shane was interviewed, Hudson Williams, saying that there were some pretty high profile athletes, without naming, saying that they reached out to him personally, saying like, I'm still in the closet and I'm struggling with this, and I'm really grateful for what you did, and being in a project like this.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think, yeah, it's definitely tricky, right? Because we're all used to seeing heterosexual sex in movies, right? Like it's so common.
Right.
And there's definitely people that even when that happens, they're like, can I fast, skip this, whatever, right?
Like a Nora.
Um, what's that?
Like a Nora.
Yeah. Yeah. Like your parents, don't take your parents to see that movie. But yeah, so I know it's definitely going to be a lot for some people, right? Like if it's very heavy on that, there's definitely people that are going to be, not okay with it.
Right.
Um,
And it's not just
and
inferred. You see, like, they show a lot.
yeah, yeah, and I think HBO is probably the right place for this in that regard because they don't really care. They're like, whatever, it's going to be there.
Yep.
We're going to put it on, and you can watch it or not. but apparently people are watching because it's doing really well.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, I think it's probably a good thing to have out there, and if nothing else, it's a good conversation starter. I think, um, like you said, it's very hard to be a professional athlete. Um, just dealing with your personal life, anyways. Like it's such a mess. Like I always think of, Derek Jeter through his career. He took so much crap about who he dated Mariah Carey for a while, dated, whoever, but like he always said he wasn't going to settle down. Like he's like, baseball is my thing. But people are always up in his personal life, like a lot. And he was one of the few people that was very, very, very good about just keeping that. Uh, you could say whatever you want, but you could never really prove anything because he didn't say a damn thing. But the bigger you are, the more under the microscope you're going to be, right? And so if you're in a sport that is obviously all male, you have to assume that there's at least one guy in every clubhouse that would be like very angry to have a gay person in their clubhouse, right? Like it's just unfortunate, but it's probably true. Or that they would be uncomfortable because, and this is the thing that um you have to like, as a guy, I don't look at every girl and think every single girl is hot, and a girl doesn't look at every single guy and think every single guy is hot. So like a gay dude isn't going to walk into a locker room and be like, there's 20 guys and they're all hot. Just because there's a gay dude in the room doesn't mean he's looking at you and is into you, right? The people get uncomfortable for all the wrong reasons. And at the end of the day, like, you just, it is what it is. And I think a series like this can be hopefully a little bit of an eye opener, and maybe, like you said, coax a few people, start that stream of people being able to come out. I think the sport that I can think of, oddly, that has the most openly gay people is like rugby. Like rugby that is a very physical sport, but it's also not an American sport, which I think makes a little bit of a difference there. And there's a relatively reasonable number of people that are out playing rugby, which is funny because it's the sport where dudes are most like hugging each other with the smallest amount of equipment on them. And so I think we just have to, hopefully this stuff moves in the right direction. I'm not saying that everybody has to like be like super stoked that everybody's gay, because people are different, but like you
Right.
can't, I don't know, you can't blame somebody for being who they are.
Right. Or in many cases, like with Shane, the character who's the Canadian hockey player, I don't think he even knew he was gay. Or if he did, it was just more of a, all right, I don't know how I feel about this, but really exploring your sexuality until you meet the right person, a person that you align with intellectually, spiritually, physically, etc.
Yeah.
Do you think like the production was like there's two ways to look at it, right? So I'm looking at the description and it's a sports romance, right? So do you think that it was made just because these stories are real, so let's just tell this story too? Or do you think that there was kind of like a mission or a broader agenda, like if you're gay and you're in sports, you're not alone? Like, what do you think the thinking was in putting this together? I know it was a book first, but yeah, I just want to
Written
get your
by
opinion.
a woman, and the actual series was directed by a man who is bisexual, if not gay, from my
Okay.
understanding. Yeah, I think it's one of those things, Andrew, where it's real and unfortunately people are silenced and you don't know about it either ever or until years later. And I think given that LGBTQ issues, matters, etc., are becoming much more accepted, this is another side of it, or another, I don't want to say industry, but yeah, industry that hasn't been as open as, let's say, theater or other industries where for years now it's pretty much accepted, and not only accepted, but it's encouraged. It's not encouraged in most sports, particularly in America. You don't talk about that. I
No.
mean, I think about like Michael Sam, he was getting death threats, and I think there were even times where like sponsors, like that's the other thing too. Shane was getting all these sponsors, and his mother was really pushing for it, knowing like he's mixed race. Let's get him out there as, someone who was Caucasian and Asian, but knowing, and I remember when she first found out, like towards the end of the series, how are they going to respond? The sponsors. Her head immediately goes to the sponsors. But also very sad to know that her son had to hold this in for so long as well.
Makes me think of there's a show called Frankie and Grace on Netflix. Now this is a comedy, right? Like definitely like outright comedy. It's
Yeah.
but Martin Sheen and Sam Watterson, they play the gay couple. But the thing about this story, and it's like this could be the show down the line, right? These guys are in their 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
They come out to their wives in the first episode. They're like, we've been business partners for our whole lives. Well, guess what? On the side, we've been, every time we go to a conference, we've been hooking up. We
Right.
decided we're finally going to come out of the closet and be together.
Mhm.
And the two wives are hilarious. They obviously do not take it well because it's, messy. And the way that show breaks down is now from the comedic side, like the guys decide to move in together. They have control over a lot of stuff. The women end up moving in together. They've known each other but aren't best friends, even though the two actresses are best friends in real life. And it's very funny, but it's that same idea, right? Like they didn't know how to present this thing to the world. So it was always something off to the side that they did in secret
Right.
for a long time. And finally they got to the point in their life where they're like, look, how much time do we have left? Like, who gives a shit at this point? Um, and yeah, it's interesting that people will live that long with that kind of secret.
Yep. I mean, I think of Bruce Jenner in a different way now, Caitlyn Jenner and her trials and tribulations, knowing that she always wanted to be a woman, or at least for decades, and not being able to come out and actually follow through with it until, within the past 10 years. And granted, this is just talking about her identity versus sexual orientation.
Mhm. Yeah, it's hard. It is hard to, and then I don't know if it's harder or easier in the public eye. I think it's probably harder um, to put that out there because it's something that is so different from what you've been presenting yourself as for so long.
And what you're
Yeah,
exposed to. You're
yeah,
exposed to all of this like macho masculine energy. And like I think of hockey, that and football are probably like the most masculine sports, with like just
yeah.
such a large
Hockey. Literally,
male.
people go to watch the fights. They're like, if they
Right.
don't fight, it's not a good game.
Right.
You
Like
know?
just such a large male fan base. Can you imagine like being a player and then knowing you have that secret and then letting down, or I don't want to say letting down. Yeah, letting down like so many fans that adored you for years, to know that that person is not what you expected them to be, which is, very unfortunate and sad that that's the mentality that others have. But I mean, there's still a lot of people in this country that don't accept
Mhm.
people for being gay.
Well, I think somebody would actually have a better have a better experience if they were out before they made whatever league they were in, right? If you were if you started your career and everybody just knew you were gay, that'd be something that's on the table, right? And then people would know how to deal with that or figure out how to deal with that out of the gate. It may not help you, it may hurt you or whatever. It may make things
Correct.
harder for you, but that is on the table. Like that is a thing that is known. I think if you spend 5, 10 years in the league and everybody sees you as this one thing, and then you're like, well, I'm actually, I think it would be harder. I think people would judge you in a different way because that's not what they expect. And so I think it's just hard. It's just complicated overall because you can't ever know what other people are going to do until they do it, like how they're going to
Right.
react until they
That
until
and
they do.
also I just think maybe now more accepting, but 5, 10, 15 years ago when a lot of these guys are now in their prime, 5, 10 years into playing whatever sport they're playing and into their tenure. Who I mean, I a lot of organizations do not want to take on, we don't see it as a burden, but they see it as a burden being gay or all these other things, unfortunately. And I think that's just a reality. I know I think about Michael Sam's story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being super quiet about this because I mean, to me, like I literally just watched this YouTube thing on people who don't like sports. Like I am one of those people who do just I don't care, and we are wired differently.
Sure.
And it talks about how even like if you're into sports, it's more about an us or them kind of mentality. It's just the whole way your brain works. But most people are into sports. I'm not. So that said, yeah, in my head, I'm like, if I'm a team, right? And there's a great baller or whatever out there, but they're gay, I might be less likely just because I know our fan base to want to have them join our team. I
Yeah.
could actually see it hurting you if you are, but again, I'm not going to speak with authority here because I just don't watch or care about sports. That
Right.
said, I also know that whole Miller Lite thing was a big deal where they had these cans come out and they were all like rainbow flag and everything. And then there was a backlash. And then Miller Lite then reversed course like idiots. And then not only did they lose like the people who said, okay, Miller Lite's gay now, then they lost the gay people because they're like, oh, so you weren't even really about that life. You were just trying to like use us. So their market share like plummeted. So
Right.
to me, it's like professional sports, especially probably like football and baseball, to me are like America's pastime, and you don't touch that. Hell, you better stand up for that flag. I mean, you know where I'm going with this. So
Right.
it's like it is our sacred ground. It is the last like bastion of breadbasket America. And we're not trying to do the whole gay nose rings, lefty shit. You know, like that to me is like how I read sports, period. Um, so yeah, I just but I do think change is inevitable, and I think that a show like this is just indicative of where things are going because
Right.
yeah, it's the human experience. It's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's getting the attention that it intended to is awesome.
I'll say
I
one more thing. Michael Sam's, from what I understand, wasn't that good. So to me, it's like it's one thing to be somebody who is different than like everybody else, okay? But it's not enough to just be playing. You have to be good, if not better than everybody around you. Again, I don't know if who was that black bulb? I should know this, but the guy who desegregated baseball, I forget his name, but
Jackie
Jackie
Robinson.
Robinson.
I heard he was really good at what he did,
Oh
for example.
yes.
So
Yes,
if
he was
you're
incredible.
really good, that's when the shit matters. So if you're mediocre, I'm sorry, I'm just being real. Who fucking cares?
Yeah,
You gotta
exactly.
be good. So if you're gay, unless you're like the shit, in a way, kind of shut the fuck up. Like, or don't expect special treatment. You have to represent your shit well. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Sorry. I mean, I just think that whether it's Jesse Owens, who won the Nazi Olympics, whether it's Jackie Robinson, you have to be better than those around you. Otherwise, you're making it about your identity and not making it about you being excellent. And oh, by the way, this is part of me. There's a difference.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why I think that when Bruce Jenner came out as transgender and knowing what his accolades were from years
And
prior.
ESPN celebrated him for it.
Exactly.
So I'm saying I'm being consistent here.
Correct.
So yeah, you've got to be excellent. That's the one thing I'll add to that. You've got to be excellent to get the credit.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah,
again,
it's true. It's true. Like if it that's the other thing. If it's not a story, right? If it's not a big deal, and if you're just some schmo that the team can live without, then they'll live without you. Like if they've and because it's business, if they've got to make a choice, between the bottom line and making a stand, most teams aren't going to make a stand.
Right.
It's just how it is. I mean, again,
Two guys
business is
were number one
business.
and two players. They were not mediocre. They were one and two
Yeah.
In the show.
season in
Yeah.
the
But they're also in the show, they're not out, right? Like they are
correct.
still in the shadows with this. So it's still the same argument in a way. Like even though they're great, they're still not willing to go out there and put it on the line because at least not yet,
Yeah, and
because
that's on
it's
them,
scary.
and that's on them. And I also think that you have to be a bit of a sacrificial lamb. Let's remember Ellen like lost her damn show when she came out,
Hmm.
but then of course she came back and obviously had her own show later on. So whoever's first is going to have to be like the sacrificial lamb. But once that happens, then you make it cool for everybody else. Milli Vanilli, they were lip syncing. Everybody fucking lip syncs now, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
but they had to like take their lashings for it. This is just the universe. This is the laws of reality.
Right.
But I think it's on them. Again, we're talking about a fictional show now. Dude, come the fuck out, you know,
Uh,
and
the
make
the
the
tricky thing
sacrifice.
is too when you look at Jackie Robinson, when you compare Jackie Robinson to this situation, there's no gay professional sports leagues. At least with baseball, there
Yes.
was the
The
Negro
Negro
leagues.
Leagues.
You had a considerable number of black players, and all they were trying to say was, "We can do this thing that you can do. We're
Mhm.
over here doing it. Put me in, coach." And somebody finally had the balls to go grab Jackie Robinson, who again was great.
Yeah.
And so like that gave validity. I think it's harder. Like if there was a gay professional football league, like a gay NFL, and some dude over there was great, and then they brought him over, and they're like, well, shit, he's still playing the game. We're all still playing the game. It doesn't make a difference that he's gay. Totally different thing. But when it's like when you're the one guy out there making that move, yeah, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear. And I think if you were in that position, you were going to do it, be better off doing it later in your career when you've got the
Correct.
money to you
Yes.
know.
Because you gotta think about the
That's
sponsors. And
right.
Yep.
again, how important is it really? Like, how relevant is your sexuality to how you play the game, right? And then, of course, there's the other piece, of course, is like, you don't have a choice. Like, if you're black, you're fucking black. You can't
Yeah.
hide it, you know? So to me, it's
Correct.
like there is an advantage to hiding your quote unquote, like, unprotected or discriminated status. So that's another
Yeah.
thing that I'll always say. That's like, at least you have the choice to, like, put yourself out
Until
there.
until you get outed. And then it's
Yeah.
I don't know if it's worse or like yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's not something that I have to deal with. Number one, I'm not famous, and number two, like dudes are great, but I don't think you're cute, man.
Ultimately, I
Like
think when it comes to change, I think what it boils down to is if you make that thing like your whole personality, I think that's when it's harder to change minds. I think when you make it about just whatever you are, whether it's your humanity or your skill or whatever, but you happen to be of the other stripe, you normalize it. I think that's how you actually affect change, in my opinion. Don't focus on why you're different. Focus on why you're the shit. And
Yeah.
then your difference becomes like, okay, I guess that isn't a reason to like discount somebody.
yeah,
Right.
I feel like too, like going back to the show. I think that if these two and technically three, right? Because you have a third character.
You have the
If
third
it,
character, but had that love story not blossomed separately, that wouldn't have really taken the two main characters' relationship to the next level. And then, I mean, ultimately being their secret
Yeah, was gonna say, I think where the
challenge
benefit would come in the real world is it wouldn't be one player coming out. It would have to be.
more than one. Yeah.
Uh, I'm not saying a significant number. Like we don't have to have a big like gay coming out party where like 50 football players are like, guess what, guys, we're all gay. But like three, four, like just some
Right.
number that can all just be like, fuck it, let's do this thing, and they're all significant players like that. I think would be
Mhm.
a much bigger deal than, if it's not fucking Tom Brady being like,
I was
hey,
literally saying like Tom Brady or Drew something
Drew
like
Brees,
all
yeah, like
you know
somebody,
all these like yeah.
it's gotta be. Yeah.
The
If you're
heavy
going to do it
hitters.
alone, you got to be the biggest name in the game to have people be like, look, he was great and it didn't affect the clubhouse and like there's, it would just be it'd be really difficult and it would be difficult to convince yourself if you've already been hiding it from the world as it is, you know, and you kind of look at it too. You're like, look, I'm only going to be playing this sport if I'm lucky until I'm 40. Almost nobody plays a professional sport after 40. Like, this is just not how it goes. If you play past 40, you are an insanely incredible athlete. Life has been very good to you. But sports are hard on the body. And so like part of you is just like, yeah, I know it's 15 years and that's a long time, but I'm gonna come out of this rich. I'm gonna come out of this with
Right.
everything I need, and then we can figure that shit out later.
Correct.
So like it is in a way it's sad, like you do have to hide this thing, but at the same time, like how many celebrities date another celebrity and don't tell anybody, and it's just heterosexual relationship. Like,
Exactly. It's
you
nobody's
know,
business.
yes, you got sometimes you got to hide shit and for your own mental well-being, right?
Strategic conformity, I like to call it.
Right. And both
Yeah.
of these guys have girlfriends in the show. One of them is actually the Russian player is identifies as bisexual. Shane,
Wait,
who
so they're being cheated on?
no,
You said they
no,
had girlfriends.
Girl space friends.
Her- more like Beard.
Oh, okay.
Were they
Like
actually together or was it like an arrangement?
so with the Russian guy, he fooled around with this girl. It was known as like casual, and he was known as being like a big playboy. And they even say that at the end, like, I thought you were just a big playboy type thing. He's like, I do love women, but I've never been in love with one woman. I've been
No,
in
that
love.
totally makes sense. All I'm just trying to understand is like, as far as she was concerned, did she think she was with him or did she know she
No,
was a
she knew
beard?
she was a side piece, basically, and
A
was
side piece. So they're not really girlfriends. They were just messing around.
one of them was a girlfriend for the Canadian guy. He
Okay,
actually was
so
out publicly. They had photos of him and
yeah.
stuff. And he tried, he liked her. He liked her as a person. He tried
Mhm.
to, and they show you him having sex with her, and you could tell he's just not about it. And she is the first person who calls him out that suspicious and says, hey, let's grab dinner. And then eventually getting to, are you gay?
Okay.
And they become very close friends
Yeah,
after.
okay.
And he's nervous too because he's like, we've been spending, a couple months together. What am I going to tell my parents? She's like, just tell them that I'm gay, which
That's
is so
funny.
funny. But and she's just she knows. She's like, how was it without like knowing which player, but the man that you were with? And he was like, amazing. And with me, he's like, not the same. Essentially, like telling her that. And for one, he already knows his sexual preferences and stuff, which is the Russian player, whereas the Canadian player, he's new to this and he's exploring his sexuality and finding out what he likes or doesn't like
He's
and who
new
he
to this,
loves.
but he's true to this. I had to drop it. Sorry. It's had to.
And
Sorry.
then, I mean, by the end, both guys are, I mean, the Russian guy who's like a really like a playboy, he refers to Shane as his boyfriend, his lover. And it starts off like very flirtatious and they treat it as like, their special treat once or twice a year, but they develop feelings for one another over the course of, you know, the ongoing seasons. And they'll show you like the years. It starts in 2008, 2009 and ends in like 2017 and how these guys develop career-wise and their love develops. It's interesting even just bringing in like Russian culture into this. He's like they can never know. It's pretty much like
It
illegal
is legal out there.
illegal. Yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
So him wanting to stay in the US and playing in the US and also living his life. So
Well, sounds like a good show.
I
Yeah.
I I liked it. I didn't think I would like it after the first two episodes. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna stick with it because when it's just showcasing sex, you don't really have a storyline. It's there isn't substance, right?
Yeah.
Having that relationship developed, and I thought actually the best episode was the one between that third ice hockey player and I'm gonna call him the juice boy, but the guy who works at the juice bar. Just yeah, he made him his favorite drink, and this guy's like, "Oh, I'm winning all the games that I'm like winning. I have this special drink, this smoothie." And I like how I feel when I do my run and I stick to a routine. It's very much so a thing for athletes. They'll repeat things that go well and stick to a regimen based on how they performed after doing a certain couple of steps of things and taking a run to this juice bar and having this specific smoothie he realized was helping him, but also the guy who served it to him. So I don't know. I thought it was beautiful. I shed some tears and I think it's solid. And yeah, I do recommend it. I see why it's getting all the buzz. And I think they purposely like do like a lot of the sex stuff because, a lot of people are drawn to that and they want to continue watching and it definitely grabs your attention 100%.
Sex
Cool.
sells.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yes.
think, again, kind of like you said, you've got to be able to deal with the sexual side of it, otherwise it's not for you, period. But if you're okay with that, it sounds like it's actually a pretty amazing show, just by all accounts from everything I'm seeing. And like I said, before you even started talking about it, before I looked it up, actually ratings wise, just the buzz that I've seen about it was that this show's incredible. So, um, yeah, I think, like I said, you got to be open to it. But if you are open to it, sounds like you'd be in for something that's pretty excellent. So, yeah, I think we covered everything, man. Addiction, coffee shops, gay hockey players, and nuclear apocalypse. We got it all, man. So I think I will walk us out here. I have no idea what's coming next week. I think there's actually a couple of things coming out that I can't think of off the top of my head, but a
Bone
couple.
Temple, I think, comes out next weekend.
I think so too. I think it
Yeah.
might officially drop on the 16th, which is Thursday or Friday.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
but yeah, Bone Temple comes out. I feel like there's a series
16th.
coming.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like there's a series coming out next weekend too that I can't think of off the top of my head. So there's definitely some stuff coming back. If you like your regular TV, all of the shows and sitcoms and stuff are coming back after the holiday break. So there's a lot to watch there. Your jaw just dropped, Andrew. What are you?
According to the movie, we had 28 years later, the Bone Temple's first reactions hail horror sequel as the movie of the year. People
I,
are like giving it. They
I've
said,
seen some pre and now. You always kind of got to take those with a grain of salt, right? Because they're not the general audience yet. But I've seen a lot of buzz about how good it is, and this is one of those things that they wrote this as. I think they wrote it as a trilogy, but they were ready to say screw it if it didn't take off.
yeah.
And it sounds like they're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, like this was going to be like I think they wrote it to be a finale, but if this does well, then they will make another one.
Mhm.
They said 20 years later, Bone Temple is incredible. Really explores the idea of humanity in a world gone to hell in stunning fashion, while also delving into the virus itself. Ray Fiennes is tremendous. Jack O'Connell is terrifying. I was grinning like an idiot for the last 20 minutes. I'm ready, dude. It better be good. Actually, you know what? No, I should calm down, Andrew, because you know how this
Yeah,
goes.
yeah. Don't build yourself up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
lower them
Calm down.
expectations.
Yes.
Go in with a level head, man.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I'll get to the theater for it, but I'm excited for it when I get to see it. I I didn't know what to expect from the first one, and I really enjoyed it.
The
So
first one coming out?
l- last
Yeah,
year, the
last
year
year.
before, was it
No, I
last
think it
year?
was last year. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
And then this summer, the second one came out, right?
No, it's coming out next week. The second one, the original. So the original 28 Days Later came out a long time ago.
I want to say 99 or 2000.
Yeah, yeah, a long time ago. And then 28,
2008, I think, was the second
yeah,
one.
28 weeks later was.
Uh, 28 weeks later, but
It,
something just came out this summer.
no, no, it hit streaming over the summer, but 28 years later came out last year, and then now we've got the second 28 years later movie. Um,
Wait, so it's 28 years later, 20 weeks later?
the original is 28 days later.
Oh, 28 days.
Then it's 28 years later, and sorry, 28 weeks later, and then you have the two 28 years later
You know
movies.
what? So check this out. It feels like it came out earlier, dude, but I do see here June 20th, which feels so weird. So I think you were right, Lauren.
Is it really? Damn,
Yeah,
I
I
really
thought
thought
it was earlier than that. It
Yeah,
was
so did I.
so that's really quick. They were shot back to back, which makes sense then.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 28 years later did come out in June 20th, actually the day I proposed. And then 28 years later, Bone Temple comes out. And I think they did it where it was 20. No, I can't be right, but maybe it is right. 28 weeks after that film drops is when this one drops. So it's really put
Is it a
put
sequel to
together.
the one that came out in June?
Yeah, direct sequel. Like I think, like I might pick up exactly where that one left off.
Yeah.
And that one's called, they're both called 28 years later?
Yeah, 28
Yes.
years later, but they said 28 years later, the Bone Temple, which is great. Like, what a cool ass name, the Bone
It is a
Temple.
cool name.
You already
It is a
know
cool
it's going to be like, and Ray Fiennes, like, he's dope. He elevates everything
Yeah.
he's in.
Yeah,
So
he's
he was
awesome.
actually a big part of Schindler's List, man. Dude,
Mhm.
that guy was massive. Yeah, anyways. But no, Ray Fiennes he's dope in everything he does.
Yeah, he is. So cool. Yeah, just look out for stuff. There's definitely stuff out there. So with that, I will say thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.